From sinister, deserted factories to ghostly, forgotten castles, here are some of the creepiest abandoned places in the world. Number 9. Rummu Underwater Prison. Nature can turn an already eerie place into something truly magical and frightening. And to prove that, we head to the drowning ruins of Rummu in Estonia. Now a popular yet haunting beach hangout for locals and tourists, but in the not-so-distant past, it was a prison complex. The facility itself was right next to a limestone quarry. The deposits of limestone were used to make gravestones, churches, and crosses. The prisoners were expected to do a certain amount of work every day, or else. They mined the rocks at the Soviet Union's command. Many died while trying to complete these demands. To keep the ever-deepening quarry from being submerged, water was being pumped out day and night. A few years after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the process of relocating the prisoners and closing down the quarry began. When the prison fell into a state of abandonment, there was no need to keep pumping out the water, and the prison gradually began sinking. On nature's odd whim, many of the original machines and buildings were swallowed by the crystal-clear lake. You can still see buildings peeking their ghostly heads out of the water. There are lampposts, barbed wire, mining equipment, and a whole forest at the bottom of the lake. Divers with a taste for danger ignore the signs that say, "No swimming." This sunken prison has gotten the attention of many, including Science Channel's What on Earth? Lots of people come to see the former prison, and it may seem like an interesting place for a day trip, but there have been accidents with visitors that weren't careful. Accidents that have resulted in deaths. Number 8. Spanish Doll Factory. There are quite a few abandoned factories all over the world, but in Valencia, Spain, there is an abandoned doll factory that is said to be especially terrifying to explore. It's presumed that sculptor Ramon Ingles was connected to the porcelain dolls that were made in this factory. While porcelain dolls were mostly made in Germany and France during the 1800s, they've been part of many cultures for a long time. They're still considered collectibles to this day. They're also incredibly creepy. Their realistic features make them perfect stars for horror movies and nightmares. The factory was abandoned sometime in the 80s after skirmishes with the local government, and plans to restore it never happened. And for some reason, everything was left behind. Dusty boxes of doll limbs, hundreds of molds, machinery, half-finished dolls still lying on the assembly line. It's as if everybody just vanished in the middle of a workday. The dolls were even made with human hair, which makes it even creepier. The dolls are still there, watching all who enter. Today, the factory remains almost unchanged, besides a collapsed roof and nature pouring in. As if all this wasn't enough, one urban explorer claims to have found sacrificial chickens and blood on the dolls, stating that there must have been a ritual performed in the factory at one point in time. Number 7. The Desert of Forgotten Ships. Hiding in one of the most obscure corners of what used to be the Soviet Union is something ghostly. Only 3 decades ago, this was home to our planet's 4th largest inland water mass, an ancient sea so boundless, even Alexander the Great wrote of his struggles to sail across it. Now, for the first time in 600 years, the Aral Sea is almost bone dry, and a fleet of epic rusted ships half buried in sand is some of the only evidence of the past. Years ago, the town of Moynyak was a bustling fishing port. The sea was so abundant, it was a hotspot for business. So, what happened? In the 1960s, the Soviet Union decided to start an agricultural irrigation project to feed their cotton industry in the area. They diverted 2 major rivers that fed its water supply. Everything was going pretty smoothly until 1975. Then, things got strange. The fish got sick, and so did the fishermen. The water was so high in salinity, it became impossible to take a dip without being covered in a white film. The loss of water flow caused the once prosperous place to evaporate at a staggering rate. The Aral Sea is now only 10% of what it used to be. If you were to wander among the sandy dunes now, you will begin to understand one of the most serious environmental catastrophes of recent decades. This is the story of a true man-made disaster, And because of this, a ghostly ship graveyard, a desert of forgotten ships, now rests here. What remains is merely a ghost town surrounded by desert in every direction, with very few residents. Dark tourists, those curious to see this mysterious lost sea, look around the abandoned ships where graffiti artists find a canvas and camels now find shade. Crazy to think that all the ships there went from floating in water to drowning in the sand. Hey, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Be sure to give this video a like and subscribe for more videos like these. Number 6. Six Flags New Orleans. It's no surprise that New Orleans is known to have a few paranormal places around the city, and one of the creepiest, no doubt, is the abandoned Six Flags. Originally opened as Jazzland, later purchased a few years later by Six Flags, it was unfortunately closed due to the devastation caused by Hurricane Katrina. Katrina nearly took the city off the map, though a lot of it survived, but not exactly intact. The park was badly damaged by the winds and waters of the hurricane. It sat in 4 to 7 feet of floodwater for over a month and never reopened to the public. Many rides were broken, the buildings that remained standing were waterlogged, and all of the electronics were shorted out. Add to that, a lot of people decided to decorate the park with various graffiti and other markings, adding an even more surreal look. Although the amusement park has been shut down for a number of years and trespassing is forbidden, there have been people that snuck in and explored the ruins and have claimed to have had supernatural experiences. Those who go there now will swear that they hear unnatural noises within it. As to what these noises are, it depends on the source. But given all that had happened here and the eerie nature of it all, it's not too surprising that ghost stories would come from it. In some areas of the park, lights have been known to randomly come on and flicker. That's bizarre, considering there is no electricity throughout the park. Is it the spirits from fun-filled days now past, trapped inside an amusement park? We may never know. Another question you might have is why the park still stands. Well, it would take over $1 million to demolish it, and despite its poor state, the city is able to lease the land to certain companies. Some of the movies filmed in the location include Killer Joe, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Deepwater Horizon, and Jurassic Park. However, you would be wise to stay away from the park, just in case something happens while you're there. I think I would still like to go check it out. Let's go! Number 5. Rangyong Hotel. North Korea is a closed-off and mysterious country, so mysterious and abandoned buildings just comes with the territory. According to Guinness World Records, the Rangyong Hotel in Pyongyang is the tallest unoccupied building in the world. The 105-story hotel never hosted a single guest. Construction on the hotel began in 1987, but halted due to economic troubles in the country. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, North Korea lost its main trading partner and source of aid, causing a crisis. The hotel reached its full height in 1992, but the inside was never completed. For 27 years, the hotel, a monstrous 3-winged glass and concrete pyramid, have gone unused. It looks like a spaceship that never left Earth. No trespassing signs hang, and armed guards stand at the entrances. Strange, there's so much security for an empty skyscraper. Are they keeping tourists out or something else in? In late 2017, signs of work appeared out of nowhere, and sudden construction on entry roads began again. However, so far, no official announcement has been made. Its presence is a looming reminder of the estimated $750 million wasted on a tourism industry that never materialized, and an absurd misuse of funds in a country where food, electricity, and healthcare are already scarce. It's viewed as a monster looking out to everything, to the extent that it was nicknamed the Hotel of Doom. Number 4. Aniva Rock Lighthouse. Is a lighthouse still a lighthouse when the light goes out and no one's left to call it home? The Aniva Rock Lighthouse was built by the Japanese in 1939 on a chunk of rock off the southern coast of Sakhalin. The island was largely uninhabited until the 1800s, when both Japan and Russia became interested in claiming it. The fight over the island went on for years, until finally they decided to each take half. Sharing is caring, until it's not. This lasted until the end of World War II, when the island was claimed completely by the then Soviet Union. Now the Aniva Lighthouse sits on its rock in the ocean, completely abandoned. Its 7 stories of diesel engines, accumulator rooms, keepers' living spaces, radio facilities, storerooms, and clockwork pendulum collect dust. Today, the upkeep and operation, or lack thereof, of the Aniva Rock Lighthouse on the Russian coastline has pretty much been left up to the test of time. It's been looted and left for dead. Seagulls are really the only visitors now. It's slowly succumbing to the endless onslaught of wind and waves. It stands, barely, as a solitary reminder of a time when fog-piercing lighthouse beams guided wayward mariners from the cold clutches of the deep blue sea. Now that we have sonar and satellite coverage equipped on every major seagoing vessel, it's almost sad to think that the time of lighthouses has just about come and gone. Number 3. Florida Dome Homes. Over the years, the history of this futuristic-looking home has become an urban legend, and the domes have gained an almost cult-like following. Many know of its whereabouts, but its origin has been somewhat of a debate. Rumors about the domes went as far as claiming they had been left by extraterrestrials. Did aliens build this as a vacation home in Florida? Well, as cool as that would be, the truth is that it was built by a retired inventor and oil producer. Bob Lee began construction on these giant bubble-like structures in 1980. The domes were built on the southern tip of Cape Romano as a do-it-yourself project for Bob. The dome home was ahead of its time by being self-sustaining and solar-powered. During the early 1990s, Bob and his family moved in. 1992 was the year that Hurricane Andrew tore through the Florida coast, and surprisingly, the dome house only suffered minor damages, despite taking a direct hit from a Category 5 hurricane. Originally, they were built on dry ground, but over the years, the alien-esque home has made a slow, watery descent into the Gulf of Mexico. Erosion and powerful hurricanes to blame for its demise. 2 of the domes have collapsed, sealing the fate of this beloved architectural gem. The abandoned domes have become a popular destination for tour boats, fishermen, and urban explorers. Number 2. Chateau Miranda. When it comes to castles, they can be very scary if not maintained, which was the case for the precious pearl Chateau Miranda, hidden in a hilly and forested region in Belgium. Also known as Chateau de Noisy, it is the ultimate fairy tale setting, with towering spires poking out of the rolling green countryside. During the French Revolution, the Count, Ledeclerc Beaufort, and his family, who were very much involved in Belgian politics, fled their home and went to the secluded farm in the forest on the outskirts of the village in 1792. When the revolution ended, the English architect Edward Milner was commissioned by the family to design and build a castle on the land. The castle was built with noble intentions. During World War II, the chateau was briefly occupied by German troops, and during the Battle of the Bulge, there was fighting and death on the property. In 1950, the castle was taken over by the National Railway Company of Belgium and found a new purpose as a holiday camp for children who suffered from ill health. The castle gave shelter to the children, providing fresh air and a fabulous playground. One can still find dolls scattered throughout the rooms or hanging from ceilings. The ghostly setting would be more suited to a horror film than a Disney movie, with destroyed staircases and dust-strangled kitchens. It has suffered heavily both vandalism and the hand of Mother Nature. After becoming too expensive to maintain, the Miranda Castle was abandoned in 1991. A fire a couple years later destroyed part of the roof, and dry rot has set into the wood. What's more, the people that then owned the castle refused to let anyone maintain it. Because of that, it became decrepit, and ghost hunters would go there and claim to detect various spirits of what once was. Is Chateau Miranda haunted by the soldiers who died in battle on the land, or the sick children who played where a battle once took place? Although the shell of the unique fairy tale castle stood proudly, there is sadly no known projects for the restoration of the building. Number 1. Cortijo del Fierro. Cortijo del Fierro, as it is known, now has been many things over the years, but now it stands as a very creepy farmstead that no one uses anymore. It has a very interesting and bloody history. It was also the inspiration for the story Blood Wedding, due to the real-life events of one of the residents who lived there. A daughter was promised to a laborer, but she fled with her cousin, whom she was in love with. He was killed, she was beaten, and the whole affair was tragic as a result. The once grand estate is now a battered collection of buildings and would probably not draw a second glance had it not been for the haunting history of the real-life story of betrayal and bloody revenge that occurred there. Its crumbling walls are now considered a historical landmark. Thanks for watching! What did you think of these creepy abandoned places? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!